The Secrets of Star Trek is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, episode number 41.
Captain to bridge.
Spock here.
Make it so. Surrender is not an option.
Attention crew of the Enterprise, this is James Kirk.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over the horizon, what's beyond our own shores.
We would have helped you get home if you had asked. That's who Starfleet is.
Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, where we discuss the hidden layers and deeper meanings found in all the Star Trek TV series, movies, and more. Today we're discussing the Star Trek Discovery episode Red Angel, or The Red Angel. That might be another way of putting it because it makes it more specific.
Be definite, Dom. Use the definite article.
I'm definite that it's officially. So joining me today on the panel are, as you heard, Jimmy Akin. Hi, Jimmy.
Howdy, Dom.
And Father Corey Stika. Hi, Father Corey.
How's it going?
As we begin, we usually do, I just want to start with a reminder to you folks. If you haven't done so yet, and I know you right there, you're listening, you know you have not yet liked The Secrets of Star Trek on Facebook.
Unless you have.
But I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the other guy or girl, gal. Sorry, I don't know. I'm using all the wrong pronouns or nouns. Anyway, you, the Star Trek fan, have not yet liked Facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. That's what I was trying to say. But please do so, and then go to Twitter, where you should retweet today's show by retweeting it at our SQPN. That's our Twitter handle. You can leave us comments, subscribe to the show in iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, your favorite podcast app, or on YouTube, where you should hit the bell to get notifications. And above all, share the podcast with all your Trekkie friends. We know that there's lots of people who aren't yet listening. I mean, we have a lot of listeners, but in the grand universe of Star Trek fans, most of them are not yet listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, and they should be, because we're having a blast talking about Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek, all the other series, and soon Star Trek new series, including I'm going to start a campaign to have a new CBS All Access to create a Star Trek series that features Captain Pike and the Enterprise starring Anson Mount. That's my new thing.
That would be cool.
That would be cool.
I think that because I have to say, just as we begin discussing this episode, I just came to this conclusion watching this, that especially the news that Anson Mount will not be in next season, which we kind of figured because this was a temporary assignment for Captain Pike, that I really, really like Pike, and I'd love to see more about him.
Well, now there is a rumor that supposedly he somehow maybe kind of punched a director on set, but then it turns out maybe he was actually doing like rehearsing an action scene and the director happened to be there. So who knows?
I know I've had that happen where I accidentally punched a boss and said I was rehearsing a scene and you walked into
my
As you
but
do.
Yes, I agree with you. I
did.
think that would be awesome to see Captain Pike, and maybe they could build up to the accident that led to his being in the chair and all that.
There are some rumors that by the end of this season, so that's 4 episodes from now, we're going to catch up to the original series and we'll maybe even see the accident.
Oh, that would be interesting. That would be also sad, but interesting.
Yeah.
The drama of that would be something else. That's for sure. That would be, although after that, who would want to be a captain on the Discovery? I mean, Lorca turns out he gets killed at the end of his term. Pike ends up in the wheelchair. I mean, that would be bad. That would not be good for the next guy.
Saru might be up for it.
Yeah, maybe Saru will be the new captain, especially the new not very scared Saru. That would be
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about the Red Angel. And so some may assume, given the theory that Jimmy posited previously, and that I agreed to, that, and I think Father Corey, you also agreed, that the Red Angel was going to be Michael Burnham.
Right.
And they come right out right at the beginning of this and pretty much say it, that Michael is the Red Angel, and then they red herring it. There's a twist at the end of this episode where it's not Michael. But Jimmy, what do you think? Do you think we were wrong?
Unless they're making a huge writing mistake, we were not wrong, because they set it up in previous episodes, the Red Angel's Michael. They tell us at the front of this episode that it is not only Michael, it is so Michael that computers could not fake the signature readings proving it's Michael.
Right.
And so to me, okay, if you're gonna say it's never Michael, then you're committing a huge writing mistake, because you've told the audience in explicit terms it is Michael. You haven't left yourself wiggle room on that. So my solution is, even though there is a twist at the end of this episode, okay, the Red Angel is a suit. More than one person can wear the suit.
Yes.
Right.
At different times, and one of the people who will wear the suit is Michael.
You know, when I watched the first part of the episode, I mean, even the first watch through, which I never take notes on, I always just watch the first time just to watch it. And immediately I grabbed my notepad. I put Jimmy called it ... And at the end of the episode, I went ... or not. You know, I don't know. First of all, we are talking about Star Trek Discovery. How many times have we complained about poor writing in Star Trek Discovery so far? There's
even some poor writing in this episode, despite the fact it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a good episode, or fun episode, like you said, but yeah, it wasn't the best written. There's just that whole. Now, we just talked Doctor Who and the episode Blink, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, but there's that whole wibbly wobbly, timey wimey problem of, if it really was Michael Burnham in the future, she would know about the trap. She would know about some of this other stuff that she later got caught up in.
And that may be part of their solution, is since it's not Michael on this occasion, that's why the Red Angel didn't know about the trap.
Right.
Yeah, I was saying the whole time, like, why is Michael in the room while they're discussing how they're going to lay this trap? If they think it, like, that's actually still a problem, because if they think it's her, why would she be in the room? So and it's also a problem. Why are they even trying to trap the Red Angel? Because if it is future Michael, as they believe, then future Michael knows more than you do. Instead of trying to trap future Michael, why don't you trust future Michael that she knows what she's doing? Right.
Because she knows more than you.
He has more knowledge of what's going to happen.
If I knew my future self was coming back in time repeatedly to save me and all life from dangers, I would tend to defer to my future self and not try to trap my future self.
I think they kind of say, like, that every time she comes back, she's letting in the future control AI. And that's a problem. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's still introduced. They haven't paid the dues.
Yeah, this is an acceptable risk. Even if you're saying there's a risk that future control is going to come back with future Michael, trust future Michael on whether that's worth it. Don't try to disrupt her plans. In the process of trapping her, you may be doing the thing that's letting the future control through.
I think even if they decide that the risk is too great and they have to stop her, let's say they do that in the story, they have to say that, which they don't. And I think that they kind of say, okay, we've got to trap her, and they move forward, and you're like, why are we trapping? And they don't. So again,
bad writing.
One of another interesting just behind the scenes note is the director of the episode is Hanelle Culpepper, who is also, we've learned, is going to be the director of the first 2 episodes of the new Picard series. So just an interesting note there.
Cool.
You were
She's
say,
also
Jimmy?
directed other stuff. Oh, yeah. Yes. I was just going to say, I also called that, and which they also now expressly say in this, that the future villain they're dealing with is a future version of Control. It's an AI that's gone rogue and is trying to set up its past.
Right. That was something that I didn't get from the previous episode, that it's a future version of Control. I just thought it was the Control AI, but it's interesting that they kind of just throw that in there like that. So let's look at the episode from the beginning, which is we start with a memorial service for Commander Airiam. This is one of the things that Star Trek does, is sometimes crew members get killed a lot in Star Trek. I mean, it's a dangerous job in Starfleet.
And we don't normally see their funerals.
Right.
We rarely have seen funerals. We saw Spock's, we saw Tasha's. I don't even know that we saw Jadzia's.
This is actually something I wanted to point out was,
I think we see Jadzia's casket, maybe.
Yeah, we see something with Jadzia. That my recollection. But one thing I want to point out was that kind of contrast Airiam's burial with Spock's, because it's a very similar set of the way it goes through is she's put in a torpedo tube, in a torpedo casing, shot out, of the
She's
thing.
buried in space.
Yep.
Which is the 24th century or 23rd century analogy of being buried at sea, because
Exactly.
if you die on a ship and it's in the days of wind power before you could helicopter someone out, you put them in a body bag and you dump them over the side.
Which by the way, for the Catholic Church is still a viable option for a funeral.
Yep. It's still acceptable. It's still burial. One interesting thing is just to contrast Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan, Star Trek II. Scotty plays the bagpipes and plays Amazing Grace as Spock is shot out into the deep, and in this, it's Saru singing a song of a mourning song or a song of lament from his culture on Kaminar, which I thought was interesting that they decided that they decided that both of these have a sort of religious sentiment, although we don't know the content of the Kaminar song, so what are you saying? But there's still this ritual of burial that's part of it.
And one of the things that's interesting is this is like this one is more multicultural than Spock's funeral, because at Spock's funeral, we had Kirk speak and we had Scotty play, and that was it as far as what we saw. But here it's like actually like a lot of non-Catholic funerals, where you have people, everybody gets a chance to stand up and say something about the deceased. That's a common funeral practice in our day, and given the multiculturalism with different planets from Star Trek, it makes sense to let people do this, unless Arium had specific no, I must have this kind of funeral. Then it makes sense to either at a funeral, as in this case, or at a wake, let people get up and share about what they thought about Arium.
Right. So we have Pike, who talks about her resilience as an unshakable virtue, her fierce loyalty. We have Tilly, who we know from the previous episode was a very close friend with her. She says that Tilly lived as if her life was a miracle because she had nearly died, and so that was. And she said we have Stamets, who speaks as she says she had said without a hint of self-pity that the paths of trillions of particles had been changed simply because she and her husband smiled at each other, and that she was happy that together they made the universe a little less orderly. Interesting. Entropy sort of thing.
She's like with Thanos or something.
Yeah, exactly.
She killed half the particles. Then we have Detmer, who we know has received a type of cybernetic implant following her injuries at the Battle of the Binary Stars. At the Binary Stars, I guess. And we won't go into that again. And how that made Arium's approach to her own cybernetic implants made her accepting of this as well. And then we end with Burnham, of course, because Burnham is the star, and she led us to the best in ourselves. Then we also get this imagery of Arium's autopsy, or preparation for burial, which includes
deleting her memories.
Yeah. What do you think of the ethics of that? Now, we know why they're doing it. They reveal why they do that, because they're afraid of the virus.
But it wasn't deleting her memories. It was deleting, because she had uploaded her memories to the computer on Discovery. It was deleting her memory on the implants.
So I can buy that you would delete for privacy reasons, and for virus reasons. You would delete before you eject the body. But I would. My first thought was, why are you doing this? You should be studying those files to learn what you can about the future AI. You need to be saving a backup copy somewhere to look at.
And they do say later in the episode that they did that.
Yeah, well, they didn't say it in this first scene, and it set me off a mental rabbit trail.
Right. We also see an interesting decision, the directorial decision. We see when Tyler, in the midst of the voiceovers of the memorial service, we see that Pike and Security Chief Nhan released Tyler from his confinement because they had thought he was the spy. And we see this morphing from Tyler's face to Arium's face. They kind of fade in, fade out sort of thing, which is really that idea of, symbolizing how she had framed him, that it was really Airiam who had done it.
By the way, Dom, you had a question at the end of last episode where Airiam died being ejected out into space, why they didn't just beam her up. And one, I mean, she does have cybernetic interface. She may be able to interact over Wi-Fi, so they might not have wanted to beam her over. But it also, because she's virus infected and a threat, but it also occurred to me this is somewhat early days. I mean, this is original series time, and they didn't yet have point-to-point transporter technology that worked really well. You needed a transporter pad on one end of the process, so we never saw point-to-point transporting in the original series. That was a next-gen thing. And here,
but they
even though I know they could beam her onto the transporter pad on Discovery, but she's a moving target, and so they may not yet have the ability to lock on to a moving target the way they will later on, because I don't think we saw moving targets being beamed in the original series. You had to be standing in one spot or pretty much in one spot, even if you were moving your arms and legs around in that spot.
Because the chroma key didn't work as well back in the 60s.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. That's a good point. That maybe that's a function of the limits of transporter technology, which is, I'm glad to see that they would, if they were trying to, because of the technology looks so much more advanced, that they're trying to kind of limit themselves in other ways. That
may be totally off the mark, and they may have even undermined it already on Discovery by transporting running people or something.
Right, right.
Well, there was like early season of Enterprise, they beamed up Captain Archer while he was moving.
Right, right. Which was probably much more dangerous, but riskier. But yeah. Well, yeah.
Who knows?
So Saru says that only Airiam and this Section 31 station were infected by this virus, but Pike says, well, she could have transmitted it. It could have transmitted itself off the station, so we have to be extra careful. This is where Tilly confirms that Michael is the Red Angel based on these
bioneural signatures.
Right, and Hugh confirms that these cannot be faked because there are variables and chaotic or entropic bits.
So close that not even a computer could fake these and have it look real.
Right. We do get.
Incidentally, I thought it was interesting because they'd been setting up a let's deduce who the Red Angel is over the last couple of episodes.
Yeah.
And they don't deduce it. They just have Tilly come in and say it.
Right. I think they probably guessed that most of the fans have by now figured it out. Like, I mean, fans have gotten fairly sophisticated to the point where filmmakers now, actually, I found this interesting. When they put up movie trailers, they're putting fake scenes in them to lead the fans astray, so that we don't figure out the plot before the movie releases, which I found interesting.
That's funny.
So we get this.
Incidentally, in this scene, there's this line: "The one variable we cannot predict is the future," and I'm going, did you hear what you just said? Do you know what predict? Do you know what predict means?
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Predicting the future is what predicting is. Nobody predicts the past.
Right. Or the present. We only you have to. Prediction is by definition the future. Right.
Well, another thing in this scene that I thought was kind of interesting is they basically they didn't show the destruction of the Section 31 station, but they just had Saru say, "We destroyed the station," and they just dropped it in there and just went on.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of that they didn't show anything of it all, because the question is going to be, well, what about the Section 31 station? Oh yeah, we just blew it up. Okay, next.
Yeah.
Show not tell, guys. You can take a few seconds. You can just start with an explosion and say, "Oh, and that's what we were doing."
It turns out the computer at the Sci-Fi house, SFX house, crashed while it was rendering that. And no, I'm just kidding.
They must have been using my MacBook Pro to do the rendering.
Right.
Previous podcast recording, my MacBook Pro did just that. So
exactly. So they talk about how Tilly says she found strange code in Airiam's system, which was a file implanted by a digital parasite, and the file is called Project Daedalus, which were the last words that Airiam said to Burnham before dying. And so this,
So they've now found it.
yep. And so what? So then we get this cool. I thought this was really cool. This exterior flyby of Discovery from as they're doing the repairs on the ship,
Mhm.
and I thought it was a real. I'm a ship geek. I love the starship stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought it was really cool that exterior flyby right into the ship, and that's where we have was it Dr. Culber and Pike and Spock and Burnham there, and Spock basically throws Burnham under the bus. He says the emotional profile of Red Angel fits Burnham, especially her tendency to take responsibility for events beyond her control. Thanks for that, Spock.
Thank you for sharing that with the group, Spock.
Yeah, he was definitely delighting poking at her every chance he could.
Yes.
In that first part there.
Yeah.
And I like her. If I was the Red Angel, why wouldn't I just say, this stuff? And perhaps you simply have a penchant for the dramatic.
Or as we like to say, for plot reasons is why.
Yeah.
So Cornwell, and then the beginning of this episode, they drop a lot of statements. There's a lot of show don't tell.
Mhm.
So we get Cornwell
Or
says
a lot of tell don't show.
that's what I mean. Tell don't show. So we have Cornwell says Discovery and Spock have been cleared, and now that's all that's in the past now. Like we're moving on. Like all that running around the galaxy chasing Spock, and he's accused of murder. Okay, that's all done, and we're moving on. I mean, they've really cleared the decks.
They could have, and this is just dialogue fixes, but they could. So it's minor scale stuff, but they could have set that up a little better and say, "I've filed it'll take a while to go through, but I filed the paperwork to clear you, so you're effectively free."
Yep.
Right.
As opposed to it's all done.
You're right. So we find out that Leland and Georgia come aboard, and we find out that Section 31 is behind the Daedalus Project, which was a time travel project, and that they developed the Red Angel suit. So thanks for sharing this with us.
Yeah. Think we might have had a need to know once we started tracking the Red Angel?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, this is actually a good discussion of the problems of too much secrecy. When we overclassify things, and in fact that we have those debates in our own government, where the U.S. and most governments in the actually these days, where everything is classified, everything is compartmentalized, and it sometimes overdoes it to the point where it hampers important things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So basically 20 years ago, Section 31 learned the Klingons were researching time travel, and that led, as it would, to a temporal arms race. If they have this, if they're working on this tech, we need to as well.
Yes.
That led to the Daedalus Project. The suit was apparently, or they thought, destroyed by Klingon spies.
Right.
But Section 31 knew about this all along and didn't start sharing even after Discovery started investigating the Red Bursts and the Red Angel.
Now, one of the things I'm kind of surprised by is that if Section 31 finds out that Burnham is the Red Angel, and that they're afraid of what she's doing in the future, that they don't just try to kill her. Bang, you're dead. Solved. Problem solved.
Maybe, although maybe that doesn't solve the problem.
Right,
maybe
right.
You've just killed the thing you need to fix the problem.
Although Section 31 strikes me as the sort of organization that acts first and thinks about that sort of thing later. So far,
I don't know. That's more governmental level incompetence. I think of Section 31 as more criminally sophisticated than that.
I suppose. Okay,
They are an intelligence agency, and
right. So then we have this very weird scene in engineering with Giorgio, Stamets, and Culber. I don't think there's a whole lot to say
Tilly.
here. Yeah, and Tilly happens to be there. I agree with Tilly, who at the end of the scene goes, "What was that?"
Yeah. And for people who haven't seen this, Giorgio starts coming on to Stamets.
Right.
And Culber
as Hugh walks into the room.
Yeah.
And Culber is objecting. It's like, he's gay, right? And she's, don't be so binary. In my universe, he was a pansexual, and we had, I forget what she said, but
DEFCON level fun.
That's what I was thinking. DEFCON level fun. Yeah. And so she starts flirting not only with Stamets, but with Culber. And since this is contrary to their own sexual preferences in this universe, they're very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And there's kind of a question of how much of this is Burnham making up,
Giorgio.
or how much is Giorgio making up versus how much is she just yanking their chain, but she's clearly enjoying it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
In fact, she even talks to Tilly at one point. I forget if it's in this scene or a later one, but I think it's in this one where Tilly is objecting to making these guys uncomfortable, and Giorgio is like, you can't you even enjoy a little bit of discomfort? I mean, who raised you?
Right. Yeah, she calls it this fabulous male tension. So yeah, it was
just a weird scene.
It was a weird scene, yes. But I agree with Tilly. What was that?
Now, I just saw an interview with Kurtzman, Alex Kurtzman, showrunner.
Yeah.
And he's made it clear that their relationship will be mended.
Yeah.
Q and
well, I saw that coming too, but
so this might be a scene to try to start developing that again.
Well, and we have a later.
There's a later one.
Later scene that moves it even further. Yeah.
Oh, I do like at the beginning of this scene, Giorgio is talking to Stamets, and she's saying, "I think you're smarter than the Stamets in my universe. You're also much more neurotic. Have you considered medication?"
Yeah, that was a great line.
I have to say, I love Michelle Yeoh and I love Giorgio. It's such a great character in this. You said Michelle Yeoh is obviously having a good time with this character. So I think she's a great element of chaos throughout this series.
Oh yeah.
But by the way, a couple of things that are actually right before this scene. Saru volunteers to help Leland do the calculations they need to try to trap the suit. And it's clear he volunteers like really quickly because he wants to scope out Leland or keep an eye on him or something. Also, they mentioned that the suit is powered by a time crystal. And you may think that they just call it a time crystal because it's cool to put time in front of something.
Yeah, exactly.
But actually, time crystals are real things. Mm-hmm. And they were in the news not too long ago. I don't know if the writers know this, but time crystals are in fact real things. What a time crystal is so you know how a crystal, what makes it a crystal is it has this matrix, an unfolding pattern, like you imagine quartz crystals, let's say, and they have this kind of hexagonal pattern that the crystal is based around because of the way the molecules line up. Across space, there's a pattern. Well, a time crystal is like that, but it evolves over time. And so it has a pattern that changes with time, but it's still a regular pattern. So it's classified as a crystal.
We also saw a time crystal in Discovery previously in the episode Magic to Make the Sanus Man Go Mad, when Harry Mudd takes over the Enterprise and pulls it out of the time stream with that device.
But they must be somewhat common if you can find them on the black market.
Right. So yeah, there is a Wikipedia article, by the way, on time crystals.
Yeah, it's actual. I mean, there really are theories about how time crystals can work, although they're not stable because, of course, that's the whole point of them being, growing through time, instead of through space.
Also, in this scene in engineering, they decide they need to go to the planet SOF4. And to trap the Angel, and they say, "Oh yeah, it's got so much deuterium there. We can use it to power our plasma reactor to catch the Red Angel." And I'm going, wait a minute. Okay, you can use deuterium as in nuclear reactions as a moderator in nuclear reactions and as part of a nuclear power plant. You have an antimatter reactor. Why are you wanting to set up a stupid plasma reactor? An antimatter total conversion reactor is going to make way more power. You don't need deuterium for that.
Because it was supposed to be 14 warp drives worth of power, is what they said.
That's nonsense. There's no way you're getting that much energy out of a deuterium reaction.
One thing that they mentioned is that this planet SOF4 is where some of the Project Daedalus testing was done.
Okay, fine.
So apparently the infrastructure was probably there for it.
And that's fine. You can go to SOF4 for that reason. I'm just saying this deuterium stuff is bad science writing.
It is. We've mentioned before they need to get a science consultant back on the staff.
Deuterium, by the way, is helium that has an extra proton.
So Saru, you mentioned Saru volunteered to help Leland, so we get a scene with Saru confronting Leland. Leland says, look, I don't know why you're here. Obviously, your presence is not necessary for what I'm doing. And Saru says, yeah, I'm here to just make sure that you're trustworthy. And because Leland wasn't, he says, even without my threat ganglia, I still have an instinctive reaction that tells me that you're not trustworthy. And, that he would protect his mission ahead of the welfare of Discovery and its crew, which is true. So, and then Burnham shows up, Saru leaves, and she confronts Leland, who tells her, she puts it out there. She says they're trying to capture her, so she has a right to know what they intend to do and how. But as I said before, but if they tell her how, won't her future self know? But then Leland drops the bomb. We get the truth of Burnham's background. Her parents worked on Project Daedalus. They weren't killed because she wanted to go see a star go supernova. That was what she had always believed as a child. They were killed by the Klingons, and they were killed by Klingons, but the Klingons were there to steal the Red Angel suit. So it's interesting that earlier in this season, he had been threatened by Giorgio that she would tell Burnham what really happened to Michael's parents. So he's preempting that and coming clean with Burnham here.
And Giorgio actually pushed Michael into asking him. So, and what I find problematic about this, so Michael storms into the room where Leland is and says, I'm giving you one chance to explain everything as you need to explain it. And I'm going, he's a superior officer. You are massively insubordinate at this moment.
There's a lot of regs that are violated in this scene. This scene and another one later on.
And like when she punches him, okay, striking a superior officer who is a member of an intelligence agency that does black ops. This is really not intelligent.
She did start a war.
Yeah, well, she she also is really slow on the uptake, because when Leland is like, okay, your parents were spies, she's like, no, that's impossible. And she keeps resisting. It's like, they were this and that. And it's like, okay, come on. Those were their cover stories.
Well, he's a physicist. Well,
spies.
Isn't that
physicists get recruited to be spies? I mean,
right. They were working on a physics problem of time travel.
Yeah,
that sort of makes sense. Right. So she punches him twice, once for her mom and once for her dad, and leaves him bleeding on the floor.
Captain Leland does not have a good day in this episode at all.
Yeah.
He has a last day in this episode, right?
Yeah.
She confronts Tyler for belonging to Section 31. And it's kind of interesting. How can you belong to such an organization? And he says, look, I'm trying to make it better by being part of this. By being in the organization, I can turn it for the better. And I thought it was interesting how it reflects some of what we have for debates in our society today. I don't want to get political, of course, but, a lot of people think, who you support politically or what organizations you belong to. That's this moral, you become untouchable because you happen to be part of this or that. And whereas someone could say, look, I'm part of this organization, or I'm involved with these people because I'm trying to make it better. But it's an interesting debate. They don't get too much into it, but she calls him on it and he kind of pushes back. And I like that about this scene.
It's just setting up man-woman tension to be released later in the episode.
Yeah, the romantic reconciliation. Yes, there is that.
One thing they mention is that or Leland mentions, is this theory that various cultural leaps on Earth and elsewhere may have been produced by time travel. So that's something they may follow up on in the future. Also, he says the time crystal was taken to Doctari Alpha, where her parents, were killed. And then he connects it somehow to the fact the supernova was going to release a lot of energy. And that's when the Klingons attacked. So I'm wondering, is the supernova, is what's the connect? Why is it significant that there was going to be a nearby supernova releasing a lot of energy with this time crystal here? And I'm thinking maybe that plays into the red bursts somehow.
Right. Well, thinking of like time travel in other Star Trek stories, especially like Voyage Home, where they have to they use the slingshotting technique and they use the
but you don't want to
more than just a slingshot.
Mm-hmm.
It's solar flare while they're slingshotting. So there's something that having to do with the immense energy released from a star combined with some of the stuff. I think they don't get into the details.
Yeah.
I guess,
well, the reason I'm wondering about that is because they understand the Red Angel suit and how it works, but they don't seem to understand the red bursts. And the red bursts are massive releases of energy across time. So I'm thinking maybe somehow the supernova and the time crystal are what is responsible for that partly.
Although the red burst might be just the wormhole that she travels through opening up.
Except they've pointed out that she sometimes shows up when the Red Angel shows up when there are no red bursts and vice versa.
Oh, that's right. Right.
Yeah, I'm sure that it has a lot to do with the amount of energy that's necessary to create the wormholes to move the Red Angel from time to time, stuff like that.
Right. Right.
Yeah. By the way, notice everybody in Section 31 seems to know about Michael's parents and what happened to them.
Right.
Apparently, a lot of people had a need to know about Michael's parents.
Yeah. Well, certainly Giorgio knew.
And Tyler knew.
He tries to deny how he knew, but
she's immediately, "You are so lying to me, dude." And he later seems to confirm it.
That's true. Like, how would he know unless Giorgio told him at some point?
Or Leland.
So Hugh Culber, Dr. Culber, goes to Admiral Cornwell and brings up that she used to be a therapist, which I think I mentioned in the previous episode. And so she's looking for he's looking for help dealing with
I'm not dead anymore.
Right. Yeah. And the problems he has in his feelings and there's an interesting moment when Cornwell tells him love is a choice and you have to make that choice again and again and again. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, wow,
that is right.
That's correct.
Yeah.
It's like the first time I think I've seen it in a TV show in a long time where they actually love isn't just some feeling that comes and then goes away and I fell out of love and now I have to move on. But that love is a choice that you make and that you stick to and that you work at and that you don't just when you don't feel it for the moment, it doesn't mean it's gone.
Right. Love is not there are different kinds of love, but love is not simply a feeling. It is a choice. It is willing the other person's good. And you can be loving someone even if you don't have positive feelings at the moment. You imagine a parent who sees their child in danger, let's say in a burning building or a raging river, and the parent runs in to save the child. Parent is not having warm, fuzzy feelings. The parent is terrified at this moment, but is loving the child by saving them.
Well, even on an everyday basis, I mean, sometimes, I'm shaking my head exasperated at a child. I'm like, why are you doing this? And I'm upset, even angry sometimes. Still love the child. I mean, that's a choice I make. I mean, it's part of who I am. I will. I think will is maybe even a better term than to choose, but I will that I love, my children or my wife. And I do like that she says that right here. I think it might be one of my favorite parts of the episode is when she is how she describes it like that. I'm like, yes, I cheered.
You mean it's not like the old 1970s movie Love Story? Love means never having to say you're sorry.
Oh, yes.
No, love means having to say you're sorry quite frequently.
Over and over and over. Even when you don't think you're wrong.
Yeah. So in any event, in this scene with Cornwell, she kind of pushes him in the back towards Stamets, saying, love is his choice you got to make over and over again. So he takes that on board. So now he's going to go back to Stamets, and to keep the plot thread going, because it's too soon to resolve it, when he does go back, Stamets pushes him away, saying this is not the time. It might not ever be the time. But it's like, that's just a delaying tactic to stretch out the drama.
Right. We have a few more episodes this season before we can resolve their situation. So we have Burnham in the gym. She's taking out her aggression on a boxing dummy instead of Leland's nose. And Spock comes in and has a talk with her.
I do wish I was there when you struck him. I believe I would have found the moment satisfying.
Right. This is more of a personal moment, a relationship moment for them. He does say he discovered the reason behind the variance in the angel's patterns of appearances, why it chose to appear at certain times and not in others, and that Burnham was the variance.
Yeah.
And that she appeared whenever
Burnham was in
when
danger.
When Michael's life is in danger, her guardian angel, appears to protect its present by protecting herself in the past. Except it's not true.
No.
Because the Red Angel showed up on Kaminar when Michael was safe on board the ship, and it was Saru in danger.
Mm-hmm. And showed up in the church, the church on Earth.
Yeah.
So,
similarly, last season, Michael was in danger all kinds of times, and the Red Angel never showed up.
Right. So then I'm wondering, how are they going to get out of that writing problem? Or are they going to say that those times were not Michael, but was her mom?
I don't know how they're going to. I don't know that they're going to get out of it. I think they may just want us to buy this and move on.
Yeah, that was a definite problem for me. I just thought it was sloppy.
I mean, I assume that if we go back and look at the appearances of the Red Angel earlier in this season, we can find that there is some kind of, not perfect, but some kind of association with Michael being in danger. And you could then headcanon, okay, well, the Red Angel can only appear in season 2 because science reasons, but what's significant about this scene is not so much that as it's Spock and Michael reconcile. Spock accepts her apology finally after all this time. It's the first of 2 reconciliations that Michael has in this episode. If not 3, you may even want to count Georgiou there, but she's also going to reconcile with Ash Tyler now. And one of the things that struck me, and it's been something I've been thinking about for a while, but especially this season, there is lots of emotional texturing, and this series is really character focused in a way that other series have not, Star Trek series have not been. Deep Space Nine comes the closest to this amount of focus on the character psychology. And so it's not, despite the fact we have interesting things happening of a science fiction nature, it's more a character driven story than it is what's called a high concept story, where the characters are more in the background and the sci-fi is more in the foreground.
Well, it's one thing it's been obvious. I think they've really been trying to make Michael Burnham more emotionally strong, emotionally diverse, shall we say?
Yeah,
because the first season it seemed like she could have been, Commander Data. Frankly, there was not a lot of emotion there at all.
She was angry a lot of the time if there was an emotion.
That's true.
So the plan is they're going to go to SF4 and let her suffocate in the atmosphere, which is made up of CO2 with perchlorate dust. And perchlorates are real things. It has chlorine, so it's corrosive. And they need the perchlorate dust in the atmosphere because they want Michael to die in 2 minutes, because that's how much screen time they want to fill. Yep. And if it was just a CO2 atmosphere, that wouldn't do it, because you can hold your breath for 2 minutes. So they need the perchlorate stuff in the air to make her die quicker.
It wasn't CO2, it was carbon monoxide. It wasn't dioxide.
I thought it was dioxide, but maybe I'm wrong.
It was carbon monoxide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I just have it wrong in my notes, but still you can hold your breath for 2 minutes.
Not a big deal. You can still.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, speaking of misspeaks on my part, deuterium is hydrogen with an extra neutron. I misspoke and said proton.
That was a very positive thing for you to make a correction of yourself.
Speaking of corrections, Giorgio says, so we're going to the 9th circle of hell. And I'm going, the 9th circle of hell is a frozen wasteland. This isn't a frozen wasteland.
No. Right.
Is referring to Dante's Inferno. Yeah.
I have to say, I this was another really good scene where I enjoy this this relationship between Burnham and Giorgio. It's so interesting. It's almost mother and daughter if you forget who Giorgio actually is.
Well, and one thing I think they've been trying to do is kind of soften the Empress, to soften her so that you see more of the personal. I mean, we got that flash of it where they had Tyler's baby on the ship, and when no one's looking, she's got, the mother look, and then kind of the smile, and then back to stern as soon as someone looks.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're doing more of that, where they're trying to soften the character. And I almost wonder if they're trying to get her to Captain Giorgio, where she almost becomes to that level.
I think they're setting her up for, her own series.
Well, yeah.
I think they want to have a Captain Giorgio-like character who's still a bit
shady,
devilish.
Yeah.
If I could compare it to Doctor Who, because that's what we do, is we compare things to Doctor Who. This is like what they did with Missy,
Yeah.
where she went from being a evil, chaotic being to being
Papa
slightly
Balloon.
mischievous. Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting to see this change in her. And I also think this scene is here because of the end of this episode, because now we have this mother-daughter like relationship, and then who's going to show up? But mom, Michael's mom. So it's going to create that interesting tension going forward. So we're going to kill Michael.
Yeah, and then revive her if the angel doesn't show up. And it's really important we do this now, Leland says, because we won't have another opportunity. Well, unless you revive her and do it again, you won't. Yeah, that's true,
Yeah.
I guess, in that sense.
But if you kill Burnham, then the Red Angel won't be coming, right? Because you've killed her, and therefore there's no more Red Angel.
Well, you're going to put her in severe danger, and then if the Red Angel doesn't show up and she does die, you revive her. Culber will be standing by to do that.
But what if she they are genuinely afraid that she's really going to die here? So if she really does die,
I didn't get that. I got that certainly Michael is expecting if I do clinically die, I'm going to be brought back.
Well, Spock says if Burnham were to perish, he would be charged with killing a Starfleet officer again. He therefore would prefer that she lived, to which he replied, "You have a way with words."
Yeah, I took that as a joke. There's no way. I mean, he's carrying out this plan under cover of law. There's no way he's being charged with killing her.
No, I get that, but
there was the point right before the angel showed up when she did die. I mean, you heard the flat line and all that. When, Giorgio says it's not coming.
Yeah.
We got to stop this.
She's only mostly dead.
By the way, so before,
what have you got to live for?
Before this, Michael goes to see Tyler, and as she's contemplating her death, she's rattled, and as anyone would be, that's realistic. And he kisses her. He really, really plants one on her, which is reasonable given the situation. And we have this "I'm scared, me too" thing, and that makes sense. All of that was, it was nice. We have a Lieutenant Nilsson of Section 31 show up to monitor some of this.
Was she Section 31 or Discovery Crew?
I thought she was 31, but maybe I'm mistaken about that. Then, as Michael's going towards the death chair, which is, I guess we're meant to understand this is like, because they didn't have to strap her into this chair. I think it's meant to be reminiscent of an electric chair. I mean, they could have just put her in the room and evacuated the air. But as she's going there, Tyler calls her on her cell phone and says, "Michael," and she says, "I know, Ash." And in Star Trek in science fiction history, starting to say something and then hearing "I know" he just admitted he loves her. That's Empire Strikes Back.
So Nilsson, by the way, we've seen her previously. She was an engineering officer.
Okay,
and so she was filling Arium's spot at the Spore Drive Ops console.
Okay.
And that's why there was all this drama about her appearing on the bridge.
There's another connection there. The actress is Sarah Middich, who played Lieutenant Commander Arium in season 1.
Oh,
She's a different
interesting.
actress from the 2 seasons.
Right. So she gets to stick around.
Yep.
That's a nice change for her.
There's a podcast I was listening to about this episode where they think that there may actually be something deeper they're going to play off of that in the season. That it's not just a coincidence that this same actress came back to take the same position of her previous role. There might be
Interesting.
something more there, so we're gonna have to watch for that. That might be kind of interesting.
This is kind of a Lita Alexander, Talia Winters thing.
Yes. Babylon 5 reference, folks.
Exactly.
So Burnham is dying. The Spock pulls a phaser.
She is so dying. She is like screaming. Her skin is disintegrating. It's very dramatic.
This is not fun.
And Giorgio reveals her true colors by moving to save Michael. And
Until Spock pulls a phaser.
Well, yeah, but then he says something weird. He demands compliance, and Michael starts to say something about variance, which Spock interprets as meaning don't stop what's happening. But I don't get what's
Michael is
meant.
the variance.
I don't get what is meant by variance in this case.
Well, Michael is the variance, which means that when Michael is in danger, she's reminding him, when I'm in danger, when I'm about to die, when my life is in danger, that's when she appears.
Well,
I think that's what
she
she's
could
trying to
have
say.
said no or stop or something that was clearer than variance. And then Cornwell turns to Pike and says about whether to stop this, says, your call. And I'm going, really? You're an admiral. You're punting to the junior officer to make the life or death decision? Really?
Then she wouldn't be the one standing in front of the board of inquiry, shall we say?
Father Corey, as the veteran among us of the military service, how real did that seem to you? That punting of the responsibility to the junior officer?
There's part of me that would say that was a very good political move, but not a very good command move.
Yeah, so
most of the time
probably
you would have
pretty accurate.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, again, when you're talking about a general level, of course, I was Air Force. We have generals, not admirals. I can see him doing that, especially ones that are politically motivated to be things like chief of staff and stuff like that. But at the same time, however, that's not the chain of command. That would have been
Certainly.
the admiral's position.
Well, and given that Cornwell has herself put herself out on a limb just in the last episode, where she went to work, to get Discovery when they were still fugitives, that didn't make sense. So yeah, it is kind of funny though that she's like, oh, but your call, it's your. Well, I think it's your crew member, so you have to make the decision about whether you're going to continue to put her life at risk.
Yeah,
I think he was letting her do that.
That's what we're meant to understand, but it still rings false to me. I mean, I can't imagine Captain Kirk turning to Mr. Spock and saying, oh, you're second officer, you make the decision, do we let this person die or not?
Well, what I was just thinking, though, is the one way it does make sense is the idea of, his ship, his chair, his command, and that she doesn't want to stomp on his command unnecessarily.
Yeah,
that's a little different than the relationship between, a captain and a first officer. But
I understand it is different, but it still rings hollow to me. This is more like an Admiral Kane, Captain Adama, Commander Adama thing. It's like she's just going to move in and take control.
So Pike makes the decision to pull her out, to end it. He tells Owo, as he calls her, to beam Burnham to sickbay, but she can't because there's interference, and that's when Tilly says there's a massive spike in tachyon radiation. There's a red burst. The Angel is coming in.
By the way, at this point, Spock has defied a direct order from Pike.
Right.
By whipping out this gun and threatening fellow officers with lethal force.
Yet another regulation violated.
Yes. Well, I mean, Spock has been there. This is old hat for him by now. So they want to they need to get more power to activate the thing that's going to disrupt the Red Angel's ability to get back to its own time. And Leland has to go to the special room to deactivate the security buffer by this retina scan, and then something kills him.
Or spikes him in the eye anyway.
It gives him a poke in the eye. Well, yeah, I guess I kind of assumed getting a spike in the eye would kill you, but maybe it didn't.
We can probably assume, I mean, we'll have to wait till next episode to find out, but we could infer that maybe it went all the way back into his brain and killed him.
Because the computer, we can guess that it's the AI is control from the future AI is taking control because it starts emulating his voice and starts issuing orders in his voice, even though he's clearly laid out on the floor at least, and gives the power to capture the Red Angel, which is if this is
yeah.
Well, maybe that's the point, is maybe capturing the Red Angel is the bad thing to do. Maybe they shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
It plays into the AI's
And that's
plans.
kind of how I took that, as the AI realized if they capture the Red Angel, then the Red Angel is no longer there to stop it from doing its conquer the universe thing.
Yeah, which I pointed out at the beginning of our podcast. Trust future Michael. Maybe you're doing the thing that's going to cause the problem. But so there's this red burst and the angel appears and shoots Michael to revive her with the red beam. And then they spring the mousetrap. And I'm like, why is Future Control showing its hand? Because they were going to catch it anyway. Why interfere with the process? Why not just let them do what they were going to do and you can stay hidden?
Well, no, it was interfering because they were going to fail. They weren't going to be able to finish the process. They needed more power. And so, but I see what you're saying is why interfere? Why not just let
him get do the
security
overrides
buffer
he was
thing.
going to do, and
Yeah.
Right. I see what you're saying now. Yeah. Why did it kill Leland or disable him in any case and impersonate him?
When they show Leland laying on the ground, his eye almost like it regenerates.
Oh, so he may have been Ariumed.
So yeah, and that's what I'm thinking is what that did is it actually injected like a nanoprobes or whatever techie thing you want to add in there, and so then Leland will be taken over by.
Oh, interesting.
Better than a poke in the eye.
Protoborg.
Yep.
Proto.
So
will be assimilated.
So then they EMP the Red Angel to turn off the suit, which they do,
right.
And Future Mom or Mom falls out.
Yep.
Right. Actually, probably past mom, given that she's dead. Yeah.
Well, she may not be dead. I don't know that we ever got a body there.
Oh, that's true. But at this point, I in my notes I wrote, "Ha, not Michael."
Yeah, I think it's temporary misdirection. It's either temporary misdirection and it's going to be Michael, or it's bad writing.
See, and I'm kind of agreeing with Jimmy on this one here, where I think it's what's going to happen is at some point Michael's going to end up in the suit.
You know, it's so this is a red suit that travels through time. It seems like I've seen a science fiction series where there was a blue suit that traveled through time and that had different people in it at different moments, like Sheridan and Sinclair and Delenn, and kind of hopped in and out of time as well.
Another Babylon 5 reference acknowledged.
Yeah. The one who is, the one who was, and the one who is coming.
I kept thinking, honey, bring my super suit.
Yeah, so I just
reference. Honey, where's my super suit? Do you have any more notes on this episode? Any more thing we didn't cover yet?
Not me.
Nope, we're
okay, then we're going to wrap it up here. And before we do, we're going to say we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Star Trek. And today we're going to thank by name Julie M., Tony S., Barbara G., and Kimberly W. Through their generous donations at sqpn.com/give, they make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Trek and all the shows we do at SQPN. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So that's it from us. What did you think of this episode of Red Angel? The Red Angel, if I use the definite article there, and our discussion of it, what we had to say. Do you think we're still on target on our Michael Burnham is the Red Angel prediction or not, or any of the other things we came up with? Let us know by visiting sqpn.com/Star Trek or the SQPN Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. You can leave us feedback there or send us an email to trek@sqpn.com. We'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the next episode of Star Trek Discovery, Perpetual Infinity,
So that's going to be a long episode.
Yes, but isn't that sort of redundant? We'll see.
Yeah.
Anyway, if it's infinity, it's perpetual. Until then, Father Corey Stika, thank you for joining me and sharing the Secrets of Star Trek.
Oh, my pleasure, and thank you, Dom.
Jimmy Aiken, thank you as well.
Thanks, Tom, and live long and prosper.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Star Trek on StarQuest. And remember, love is a choice, and one doesn't make that choice just once. One makes it again and again.